Hey YouTube, welcome back to the BladesIIB shop and another project video. Today we're making, I don't know what I can best describe as a giant hole punch. Can't think of another name to give it, but it's like a hole punch paper cutter. In my case, it's actually going to be to cut out some stickers or some decals. So I ordered a bunch of stickers for my BladesIIB, and unfortunately they made two batches. The first batch they made, I don't know if you can see that, but they're cut pretty far off center. So some of them aren't too bad, but they're a little bit off center. They sent them some pictures, they tried again, and they said, yep, that's definitely outside of our tolerance. So they did another batch. And this one, now you can see that that edge over here is cut right on an angle and almost not even a radius on the bottom corner. The second batch turned out even worse. Bottom line is I've got several hundred stickers now that really aren't cut very well. They don't look very good. Not something that I'd want to send out to anybody. So we're gonna see if I can fix it. So the plan is, I've got a couple of leftover pieces of this 4140, good steel. It happens to be just about the exact size that I need. This piece, we'll cut it down to match, take a little bit off of that. And I'm gonna see if I can make a two-part punch that's gonna go through and somewhat quickly, but hopefully very easily, cut those stickers out and make them the right size. Fun little project for the Tormach, see what we can come up with to get this done. Should come out just about like a giant hole punch. I've never done anything quite like this before, so we're going to go up to Fusion, play around a little bit, and see if we can't come up with something that is going to work pretty well to knock this one out. Hey, if you're new to the channel, I encourage you to get out there, check out some of the other videos on here on machining, welding, knife making, Fusion 360, just every other little project that comes through the shop. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, drop a comment on here. I'd love to hear from you. Let's go ahead, head up to the computer, let's go look in Fusion and see what we're going to design for this. Then we'll come back down to the shop, do a little stock prep, get the Tormach set up, and we'll start making some chips. See you up at the computer. Well, let's take a look at the design options I came up with for this. A couple things to consider. Needed to be able to get alignment around the decal, so I needed to make sure I could align it up and down and across. Didn't have to worry about trying to line up the top plate with the bottom plate. First, I came up with this design where it would fit inside of these pieces, so I'd get alignment up to bottom, put some tabs on there so we could align it the other way. Quickly, I didn't like this design. I've got to start worrying about clearance on not just outside of the punch, but now I've got another clearance here, so do I get more play here? I've got to fit this piece in between. Then you've got to include clearance around these tabs. And the bigger issue was I could round off the corners easy enough on this bottom piece, but to get the top piece, I'm going to try to machine this from the top. So I'd be coming down here with an end mill. I wouldn't be able to get a nice sharp corner in there, so I was thinking I was going to have to do another operation to machine that sharp corner in there. So bottom line, just didn't like it. Liked the alignment piece of it, but didn't like that aspect of it. Came up with design number 2, which I think a lot easier. If I just, easier to machine this piece. We're not going inside. I can use a large end mill to do all my machining on this piece of it. We're focused only really on clearance around the center of this punch and then the inside diameter of the top piece. I know if I drill and ream these holes, I'm going to have clearance over the pins, and way easier to do. I can drill and ream those, just a lot less complicated machining to do it. This is the design that I went with. I think it's going to work a lot better. Top half, same thing. We're going to just drill and ream, only having to machine the cutout, and I don't have to machine inside and outside, so it's a lot easier to hold this piece. I can easily hold it in the vise for the whole operation. Before, I was thinking I was going to drill some holes and have to bolt this down onto something to be able to machine the inside and the outside together. Overall, this design, I think, is going to be way simpler to machine and should be just as effective. So I've got some 3/16 holes in there. I've got 3/16 drill rod that I'm going to use for my 4 pins. If it becomes a hassle with the pins always wanting to come out of the bottom half, I can always go drop some epoxy or something in there to lock those pins in the bottom half and just have this top piece move up and down. The other consideration is, you want to have enough room that when I punch, it's going to definitely come down far enough to be able to cut everything and not leave any straggled edges on there. So we've got 1/4 of an inch to come down for the punch. And the pins, I can make the pins as long as I need to so they can stick up more than 1/4 inch. So we've got good alignment on this. And the other factor that I wanted to consider is I wanted to make sure that you could easily get your fingers around here, because we do need to line up the decal. We're going to be looking down from the top, but we want to be able to get our fingers in and around here to manipulate this and line it up. I wanted to have the sides open. I didn't want to have a top piece that fit into a recess completely. Otherwise, you'd be doing all your alignment of the sticker or the decal from the top. That seemed more complicated. Those are all the design considerations that went into this. Came up with pretty simple in the end. I think this should machine pretty well. Let's go down here and take a look at the manufacturer side. We're going to end up with just 2 setups. So we've got our first setup. We're going to machine the bottom half of this. I've got a block that's pretty much already cut to size. I just left from the stock portion. I left it where I put an extra 8 thou on top. So we'll take a quick face cut off the top of that. I've got my post-process set up to work offset number 1. I'm just going to use G54, going to hold this in a vise, going to probe off of that, even though it is on my pallet system, just using the vise for the setup. So we've got that done. We're going to go face the top off, and then we're going to machine around this whole pocket area. I'm going to kind of work my way in from the side, try to cut the full depth all at once. It's 4140, it's steel, should have a pretty rigid setup, but you know, I'm taking it pretty easy on the cuts on here. Last time I cut some 4140 in the Tormach, it definitely works it. It needs all the extra rigidity it can handle. It's not going to take huge cuts. Be a little bit slow tickling around there, and then we'll go through and do a quick center drill the holes in there, and then put a reamer through there to get those set up. So it is reaming into a blind hole. I left about 30 thou clearance to make sure that I don't have any chips build up on the bottom, but these reamers are pretty good. They pretty much pull chips out the top, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. So that is setup number 1. Let's do a quick simulation on that, and you can see what that is going to look like. Again, we'll get in there, face that off, and work our way around that outside diameter. It gets it set up until it can do full passes, go all the way around the outside, and then get a nice finish pass. I've got it doubling the finish pass on there. Going to try that this time to make sure that I really going for just about 1.5 thou clearance from top to bottom. I've got double cut on the finish pass on both the top and on the bottom. And on the top side, I've got it set up where it removes negative 0.08 stock material, which that should be 1.6 combined across both sides. And we'll test the fit before we remove our second piece. And if I need to, I can always increase that clearance a little bit. I thought we'd start at 1.6, work our way up from there to figure out what kind of clearance we need between these 2 pieces. So there's operation number 1. And if we go in here and look at our second setup, then it's going to be on our top piece. Same thing, just going to put it in the vise, probe off of the corner. I've got this one set up, same. I told it just 8 thou material on top so we can take a quick face cut. We're going to get in there, we're going to face that off, and then we're going to machine out the pocket with that larger end mill, get rid of all this material in here. I'm working on 200 thou step down, so it's going to take a little bit to work its way all the way down. It's a little over 1/2 inch. I didn't think I wanted to do all that side milling in one cut. The other piece is only 1/4 inch. I think it'll work. Here we're going to do 200 thou step downs, and then I'm going to finish it with a 1/4 inch end mill to make sure that I can get the radius that I need in the corners. So we're going to finish that last 20 thou off of there. That will be done at full depth. Go in, take the last 20 thou, double cut on that finish pass again, and then just like the other piece, we're going to center drill it, go through, drill those holes through, and ream those all the way through there. Quick simulation on what this one's going to look like. Again, facing that off and working our 3 steps down to cut out that middle, using a nice large end mill, so should have pretty good rigidity. Punched it through an extra 10 thou, and then go in with that 1/4 inch end mill and clean up that edge. Drill, ream, and we should be done. So we're looking at about 20 minutes on each of these parts from a cycle time. I think it's like 13, 14 minutes on the first piece, 20 plus minutes on this second piece because of all the work down in there. Within about 45 minutes or so, we should be able to test out and see if this giant hole punch, sticker punch is going to work as well as I'm hoping it is. All right, let's head on back down to the shop. Let's get this thing in the machine. Let's get making some chips. See you back down there. All right, we're back down in the shop. We've got our design done. Got the file loaded here for the bottom half. I've got my setup sheet. I'm gonna go through, make sure we've got the tools that I need loaded up in there, get that all ready to go. And I also need to go cut this one piece of stock down just to get about half of that, or about 1/3 of that off of there, so that it's more or less the same width as our bottom piece, and before we get this one machined out. So let's get out to the saw, we'll get this cut. I'll get a couple tools set up here in the Tormach, and we'll just about be ready to start making some chips. All right, I just touched those edges on the grinder a little bit, but for saw cut, I would say that's a pretty close enough to a match set for what we are doing. Square enough to hold it in the vise. Gonna be a nice fit on there. It's good. No need to machine all the outsides. I think that's gonna do just exactly what we want right there. Let's go ahead, get this bottom piece over there in the mill, get it probed, and we are ready to start cutting. All right, I quickly reset my offset to G55. That's what I've got set for my tool setter off the top of the table. Just built this new tool, the drill. Everything else I think I've got ready to go, but I'll probably check a couple other ones. I just need to go ahead and set tool height on here. So we've got tool number 60 in there, that new one. We're on our work offsets. I'm on G55, the tool setter. So I'm gonna touch Z. And now we've got our tool height set, 4.783. I'm going to check one of the other tools I'm putting in there against this just to make sure it comes in right where the number was before. And that's our good double check to make sure we're set. All right, let's pop in another tool. We're good to go. All right, so I just loaded that reamer number 33 into the spindle. I've used this tool before. I haven't used it in a while. So to sort of check my offset, make sure I haven't done anything wrong setting the new offset for that drill, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to double check what the offset is for tool number 33. Before I had it at 4.1215, should end up with something very, very close to that. Otherwise, if I'm way off of that, then I'll need to go through and double check that other tool I just set up. All right, it's coming out within a thou and a tenth. So I'm going to call that good enough for this project, but at least that gives me the confidence that my tool setter, everything else was good. I haven't used this reamer in probably 4 or 5 months. So again, I think I'm going to call that good enough for my repeatability on this one at this point. All right, I'll get the rest of the tools loaded in here. We'll be ready to go. All right, I made sure I put my offset back from, we had G55 for that tool offsetter. I'm back to offset G54. We're going to get our part probed. Right now I'm just going to go ahead and set it for that Y-axis. We'll hit our X-axis, get the Z on top. I've just told the spindle I've got tool number 99 in there. Doesn't really matter for X and Y, but definitely matters for setting Z, that you make sure you tell it you've got your probe in there. Let's get our axis set. All right, we've got our stock loaded. We're probed in on that corner. Got our setup sheet here. Got tools number 33, 44, 50, and 60. So let's see, we've got 33, 44, 50, and 60. I went ahead and loaded tool number 42. We'll need that for the other one. So we're all set with our tools in there. All right, we've got our file loaded for the sticker cutter. Bottom half matches up with the tools 33, 44, 50, and 60 that we need. And that looks like the right picture of what we're trying to do there. So we've got our piece loaded up. And I made sure that I am back on my G54 offset. That's what I just probed to. Removed my tool number 99 from the spindle. I forget that one quite often, but if you hit go, when 99 is in there, it will lock up and nothing will actually happen, which is good. And we should be all set. All right, let's hit go, and 13 minutes from now, we should have the bottom half of our hole punch. It seems to be doing all right with that 50 thou full depth step over. Feeding at 10 inches per minute. I'm happy with that for side mill.
So still cutting fine all the way around. It's doing the full laps now, still running at 10 inches per minute. The only place it doesn't seem to be very happy is right when it comes around to the front and it's going to go in for that next depth of cut. That's where it wanted to start to chatter a little bit. So I've been on that first lap, I slowed the feed down there a little bit, let it sort of settle into that new depth of cut, and that seemed to help. So I'm going to slow it down, let it get in there, and then speed it back up to the 10 inches per minute. So when it's doing that little bump in on the side, it gets a little unhappy there for a second. But otherwise, again, running 10 inches per minute, 50 thou, side milling, 1/4 inch deep. All right, this is doing that repeat. It's doing that second finish cut around there just to make sure no flex in the cutter, no little burrs hanging around. Really want to make sure we've got good size for these two parts fitting together. And on that 1/8 thou finish cut, no chatter at all, cut just fine. So we should have a good finish on there. Well, we've got that first half complete. Gotta love that nice finish you get on 4140. Now, I didn't put a bevel on there. The whole goal for this is to be sharp, to cut those decals, so that's a nice sharp edge. I could have beveled around this bottom edge. Wasn't sure how far my bevel tool sticks out if I had a 1/4 inch of clearance, so I didn't do that. I'll just hit that on the belt grinder real quick. That's gonna be fine, not an important surface, so we'll touch that on the grinder just to get rid of those sharp edges. And you can see that I put the mirror on there. I wanted to make sure that I didn't get any chips stuck down in the bottom of those after drilling, since I was running that reamer down fairly deep into a blind hole. But you can see the little step down there, so I kept that reamer 20 thou off the bottom of the hole, took the hole 10 thou deeper, so should have about 30 thou clearance is what I should have between my reamer and the bottom. So again, that was just kind of deep for blind reaming, but everything went fine. Let's get our other piece set up in here, get it probed, and knock out the top half, make some dowels, see how this thing's gonna work. All right, we got that top half loaded in there. I got that probed. You'll notice I only probed X and Z. The Y is off against that same fixed jaw on the vise. Close enough, that won't have changed enough, so I did 2 probes. Also, I don't have it on parallels. We're drilling and reaming those holes. They're closer to within 1/8 of an inch of the edge. I don't want to take out my parallels, so I set it on there. You know, I know it's lifted a little bit. I didn't tap it back down in place, but that's okay. We're just taking an 1/8 thou skim off the top. So as long as that cleans up, I'm confident that just by resting it on those parallels, I've got that set up within 1/8 thou, it's gonna clean up. When it flips over, we'll have flat surface to flat surface, and that's what we're looking for. So we should be all set. I've got the other file loaded in there. We already checked our tools out, so now we're doing sticker cutter top half. Added in that tool number 42, but I already loaded that last time. We're still on our G54 offset. I have 0. I've removed my probe from the spindle. We should be ready to go. All right, our face cut cleaned up, no problem. Start spiraling down in there and hogging out the middle of this piece. Should cut very similar to how it cut the outside of that other part. Not sounding entirely happy. I'm slowing the feed rate down a little. All right, that full 1/2 inch wide cut, not very happy with that. I think the rest of it should go a little smoother. All right. Yeah, that each time I move down, it's gonna be a little rough, I think, getting going. noisy in the corners still, but otherwise it's cutting pretty well. I slowed it down to 7.6 inches per minute from 10. Seems to like that a little better. And after it spirals down, taking that full half inch width cut, clearly that's kind of maxing out where I can get to with this Tormach at 200 thou deep. Wasn't too happy with that, but slowed the feed way down, nibbled through it, and then sped it back up to finish out the inside. So we only have one more step down, and then we'll put that fresh 1/4 inch end mill in there to go do our finish cuts around here. Should go all right. We'll have 20 thou left, take a 12 thou cut, and then an 8 thou finish cut that we'll run around twice with that 1/4 inch end mill. Well, we've almost got that center section cut out. Got a couple more passes with this 1/2 inch end mill, and then it should grab the 1/4 inch to finish it off. I've got the feed back up to almost 9 inches per minute. Seems to be a little happier when it's not cutting the bottom and the sides. Right now we're through the bottom, so only cutting on the sides, and it's cutting decent again. Just a little bit of noise in the corners, but we are just about finished up getting rid of the bulk of that material. All right, that's our 12 thou cut. Little chatter, hopefully we get rid of that. I'll try playing with the RPM a little. And this should be just taking that additional pass on that finish cut. A little bit of cleanup in the corners. Well, we'll find out how we did in a minute. Let's get those holes drilled and we'll do a little test fit. Alright, well, for all the chatter noise, it doesn't look bad in there. We've got a pretty decent looking finish. So again, this should be about 1.6 thou clearance. Let's see how that does for us. I'm going to try it first, just putting the part in there, see if I can get that, and then we'll go ahead and get some dowels, line it up on those, and make sure that it all works before we take this out, in case we need to make any modifications to it. So let's go ahead and test our fit. All right, well, you saw from the other camera angle that confirmed it's a little bit too tight. I think I'm just about good on the width. I can kind of get either end started, but it would need to be a tap fit, and that's not what we're looking for. We're gonna be moving this thing up and down a lot of times. So I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna increase it by another thou all the way around. So I'm gonna move my cutter half a thou and give myself that extra thou clearance. So that should be what we're looking for, and then we will make sure we also double check it with the dowel pins in place. Again, before we take it out, let me go adjust the program. We'll come do another finish cut. Okay, we have a pretty nice fit. When it's lined up, move's not bad. So definitely got snug. Never making one of these before. I don't know what we actually want, but I think once I get the dowels on there and everything is lined up, we got movement. That should accomplish what we want it to. Let's get our dowels in there and see what we got. All right, so with the dowels, I can get all the dowels lined up in there. Can get it sliding up and down, but it is just, if I tapped on it, you can see I got it to where it'll just get stuck in there. So it's a very light press fit. That is not what we're looking for. Again, when I don't have the dowels, it was a pretty snug fit on there. So we're gonna go ahead and open that up, give that a little more clearance to make sure that it is going to function the way we need it to as our cutter. Let me go adjust the program. I'm gonna go another half thou, because that'll be a thou total. Yeah, I'm gonna go another half thou per side, and we'll see what that looks like. All right, so with two dowels in there, it's a perfect fit. If I tried to put the two dowels on this side, that's where I'm running into a little bit of trouble. Got plenty of clearance when there's no dowels in there. Moves up and down fine on the two. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and just adjust the other two dowel holes in that bottom piece, and we'll get it to where it's a nice fit on all four. So I think that's our good check of what's the overall precision repeatability on this Tormach. And somewhere in there, either my center drilling, my reamer, my drill didn't line up quite right. Something happened where, hey, those two holes just aren't quite as perfect as everything else. Even if I turn it around, I know the two holes are good on this side. If I turn the block around, just again, it's those two holes hanging up. So I'm pretty sure it's the two holes down there in that bottom piece. So let's get it out of the vise. But I think I'm done cutting any more out of that inside bore. I don't know exactly what clearance I need, but I think I have enough at this point. Don't want to keep cutting any more out of that. All right, let's get this out of here and see if we can't clean up those two pins. All right, I've got two holes over here that I didn't touch, so those two are nice, original. These two, I just took a chainsaw file in there, touched them a little bit just to wiggle that around. So now I've got nice slide action, So that is working. I think I'll probably glue those pins down in there eventually. So we've got that working. I stamped an F on the front of both pieces to make sure that I get it lined up the way that it is supposed to go, so that I've always got the, the filed holes over here. Again, I didn't touch anything with the holes in the block. I just had to tweak these a little bit. Let's go ahead and see if this will work for its intended purpose. Alright, well, first thing I notice is that my dowel pins are going to be in the way a little bit, so I'm going to have to snip the corners to get it in there quite right. Alright, I snipped my corners a little too much, so I might have messed one up. Get that figured out here in a minute. That only went down on one side. Well, let's see. Cut it all the way around. Kind of folded the sticker under one spot there. So maybe we got too much clearance around there, but let's give it one more try. There was our experimental one. All right, I don't want to take too much off of these corners. Got to make sure I leave enough. There, I think tapping that down a little more even instead of trying to do it in one whack. And it cut it almost all the way around, left a little bit of the paper on that one again. Well, we've got a little more even border around there this time. Definitely cut the decal part. It left a little bit of the backing on this one bottom edge right here. Looks like we've got maybe just a little bit too much clearance there. Honestly, pretty nice cut on the other three sides around there. Just a little bit, so maybe we'll try cutting that one first this time, see if that lines it up better. We'll give it one more go here. All right, got that lined up in there. Still cuts nice on three edges. Not doing a nice cut on that bottom edge, but definitely knocking out those other three. Little piece of paper stuck in there on that bottom edge. That's what's making it hard to pull it back apart. So yeah, that little piece just not doing a nice shear on that bottom piece there. So at that time I thought I'd see if it determined by how much there was, so there's always a little more off the top it seems. Still leaving the paper backing on there, cutting through the sticker nice. Going to accomplish what I want to. I think we're a good point here. We can wrap up this video and talk a little bit about what I would do different if I was going to go make another one of these right now.
YouTube, I was about to wrap up this video. In fact, I even recorded the wrap up on it, had it all done, went upstairs, started editing, and I went back into Fusion, and I think I found the design flaw in this part where I went wrong. Let me show you that, and we're gonna try this one again. Let's go take a look at where I believe the mistake is taking place.
YouTube, I couldn't wrap up this video without trying to figure out where my mistake came in. I was down there in the shop and I'm thinking, wow, this Tormach's not quite as accurate as I had thought it had been up to this point, but I don't think that's the case. I think the mistake was made in how I designed this part. Talk to any mold maker, anybody will tell you that you have to work off of a consistent point, and I did not lay out my 4 holes. I did not lay those out off of the center point on my part. I laid it out off of the edge, and since these things were just saw cut, as I took my X and Y coordinates off of there, it was not going to be the same on both of those parts. So I did not set up my 4 holes in alignment with the piece that I was cutting out, or in that case, in alignment with the other piece, since they were 2 separate parts. So it was just a failure in my design is what caused that to not go together. That's why I was able to put it together across the 4 pins, or put it together across the part, but not the 2 of them together, because the 4 holes were not symmetrical and were not lined up with this. I needed to have designed that different. Once I figured out where I wanted those holes, I should have measured that to the center point this way, and I should have laid those holes out from the center of that rectangle, or, off of this edge and out for both of them, off of this edge and up. I just needed to not lay them out from that XY coordinate, which was not going to be the same on the 2 saw cut pieces and was not going to be lined up with the part in the middle. I feel a whole lot better about the machine and the accuracy of that Tormach, and also just a great learning on design and how to have that consistent working point. Working off of saw cut pieces, you cannot use that saw cut edge to get consistency across parts. I feel a whole lot better about it. Still not exactly happy with how the part turned out, but at least I have a better understanding of what went wrong, how to prevent it for next time.
So now that I think I know where the mistake is and how that design was, you know, if that piece was cut just a little bit crooked on that saw cut, holds it in there just a little bit cockeyed, and it's putting these holes in there from the vice jaw, and just, you know, that's gonna get everything just only off a thou or two. I knew it wasn't much. I believe that's what's going on. So I'm gonna flip this part over, and I'm gonna be able to recut what I need to on the bottom side of this. I picked up some more material. I can cut another 1 3/4 off of this piece to make a new top, and yeah, hey, the machine is gonna look the same. I'm not gonna bore you with all that, so we'll just come back and take a look when it's done. The only thing I will show you is cutting out the center on the top piece. I went ahead and redid it, so instead of going down 200 thou and taking that full pass where that was having some issues for us, I'm just gonna drop down 50 thou at a time, use a bigger step over, and try to machine it out that way. So I'm gonna do a series of 50 thou step downs, a larger step over to cut that out, and actually machine time, it came out pretty much the same. It was about 1.5 minutes shorter, actually doing 50 thou step downs. So I will record a little bit of that and see if that solution works better for us. But otherwise, we'll come back once these two pieces are finished, and we'll see how the fit goes together on them. Stay tuned. I think this is going to give us confidence again in the Tormach, or at least give me better confidence in the accuracy of this Tormach. Let's check it out.
All right, let's see how it likes this 50 thou deep different solution here. All right, I turned the feed all the way back up to the 10 inches per minute. Yeah, seems to be a lot happier with this solution. So, and time-wise, pretty much the same deal. So I think that's a good option. A little better way to cut this 4140. Still working its way down there. We're about 240 thou deep right now. So we got about 5 more passes to go and we'll be through the bottom. I slow it down a little on the spiral down. It seems to like that. So on the spiral down, I slow it down to 6.5 inches a minute. Keeps the chatter down, and then I speed it back up after it makes the full pass. Well, we got the cut all done. Time for this test fit again. And, you know, a little bit snug. I backed the clearance off, kind of where I went originally on the first part, and a little bit too tight, but I went ahead and tried it with the pins anyway, just to see how overall alignment was, and it felt about the same. I could just feel it starting in that notch. So took another cut out of there, a little bit extra clearance, and it's starting to feel pretty good on there. I tried that with the pins. And other than the pins keep falling out on me here, I've got it. I got it to slide together, back and forth. Feeling pretty good. I think we've got a winner. All right, let me fix these pins really quick so that I'll be able to fit this with one hand. So I'm just going to pop a couple center punch holes in here, just enough that they will lock into the bottom half of that piece. Still have my F on there from before, so we'll make sure we don't put them in that side. We're going to lock them into this side. And there we go. We got some pins locked in there. Let's go check this fit out. All right, so we got our pins locked in here now. So you saw from the other camera that I tried first fit, and that was with a setting to bore it 1.3 oversized, so that would be 1.3 off of each side, so 2.6 thou total. It was a little tight. I could get it in there, and this was even without the pins, but it was really snug. So I went up and I took another 3/10 out on each edge, so right now I should be at 1.6 per side, so 3.2 thou clearance. We've got our clearance over the pins. Let's see how we're doing. It's definitely snug. There we go. Okay, so we are, let's see, 1.6. I went all the way to 2.3 last time. So I was almost a full, let's see, 1.6 to 2.3, so 0.9. I was a full 1.8 thou larger on the bore last time and had to file the pinholes to get it together. So I'm almost 2 thou smaller, and we have a fit, albeit a tight one. I may have to take a little more out of there. Oh. Once it gets lined up, it does move. Let me try one thing. I just went and put a little bit of tri-lube on those pins, and I don't think I want to take any more out of there. I think that's good. We'll see how that cuts, but I think that'll just wear in nicely. Not only that, but I can turn it around the other way, and it fits together either direction now. Got some confidence back in my Tormach. Amazing what a little design difference can do. Got that saw cut piece, holds it just a little bit crooked, puts these pinholes off of an edge instead of making everything off of the center, and that just totally messed up our alignment on that other part. All right, let's knock out a couple of stickers, make sure this one cuts better, and then we'll wrap up this video. Well, let's see if we really made something here or not. That is a clean cut all the way around. Pushed our piece down there. Nice cut that all around. Another clean cut. Now I feel good calling this video a wrap. Let's wrap this thing up. Well, YouTube, I feel way better wrapping up this video at this point. I gotta say, I was pretty disappointed when this block didn't turn out the first time, thinking that my Tormach wasn't accurate enough to do 4 pinholes and a bore and keep that all lined up within a tight tolerance. I'm glad I was able to find out that it was truly just a design flaw in how I built the part. In Fusion, able to make those changes, come down here, test it out, and truly the Tormach is able to deliver and make the part the way that I needed it to be made. So just good understanding. It's not only about the accuracy of your machine, how you design a part, whether you start with machine surfaces or whether you start with a saw cut surface, all of those kind of things, especially if you're gonna flip a part, move it around, or have mating surfaces, all of those play a huge part in the overall
how your project is going to turn out. So right now, I've got a punch cutter, a sticker cutter that's gonna work. If you're interested in a BladesIIB sticker, hey, go check out my website, BladesIIB.com, and these are available on there, along with some other things you might be interested in. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to get out there and check out the other videos on machining, welding, knife making, Fusion 360, just every other kind of part we're building here in the BladesIIB shop. If you like the content, hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video. Would love to hear from you if you want to put a comment on there as well. Till next time, I hope you're out in your own shop working on some projects of your own. I'll be here in the BladesIIB shop working on some knives, getting ready for that blade show in Atlanta in June. If you're ever anywhere nearby Atlanta in June, love it if you'd stop by and check us out there. Till next time, y'all take care.